That afternoon, a train pulled into Amsterdam's bustling city station after completing its journey from Brussels. Among the passengers was a Bulgarian man named Ilian Petrov, who had fallen asleep during the ride. The sudden arrival startled him awake, and in his haste to disembark, he left behind his AirPods, which had been resting on the table in front of him. Petrov, a freelance employee working on civil projects, made his way to a nearby hotel to check in. After receiving his room key, he settled in and took the medication prescribed by his doctor, a routine he followed diligently. It wasn't until his wife called him that he realized his AirPods were missing. With some time to spare before his work commitments began, he decided to visit the nearest Apple store to purchase a replacement. The Apple store was bustling with activity when Petrov arrived. Customers filled the space, some exploring the latest gadgets, while others browsed aimlessly. Petrov joined the queue, waiting for a customer service representative to assist him. Outside, the city exuded a sense of calm. The streets were lively but orderly, and the police patrolled leisurely, engaging in casual conversations as they made their round. Amid this tranquility, a man entered the Apple store. He carried a bag, which he placed on the floor before pulling out a gun. The man, dressed in an army uniform and sporting a beard, aimed his weapon at the crowd. His demeanor, however, lacked the intimidation one might expect, prompting many visitors to flee. Only a few remained, huddled in a corner, including Petrov. The armed man fired warning shots, sending the remaining visitors into a panic. Store staff quickly guided some customers to hide in the warehouse, while others sought refuge on the top floor. Petrov, however, chose to crouch behind a table, hoping to remain unnoticed. His plan failed when the gunman spotted him and took him hostage. Outside, the sight of people fleeing the store alerted the police to the unfolding crisis. Two street patrol officers, initially relaxed, sprang into action. They reported the incident and positioned themselves to monitor the situation. The gunman, aware of the police presence, removed his jacket to reveal a bomb vest strapped to his chest. The officers, unable to act immediately, called for backup and maintained their distance. To emphasize the seriousness of his threat, the gunman fired at the officers, escalating the tension. In the police 911 operator room, confusion reigned. The officers debated how to classify the incident. Was it a robbery or a terrorist attack? Such situations were rare in the Netherlands, leaving them uncertain about the appropriate response. Ultimately, they decided to involve the DSI, an elite tactical unit akin to SWAT. One of the DSI officers, Winston, was spending time with his family when he received the call. Without hesitation, he left his wife and children to join his team, which was already mobilizing. The area surrounding the Apple store was swiftly blockaded, and nearby civilians were evacuated. Kees van Zanten, the police chief, was summoned from a chess game in the park to oversee operations. Inside the store, the gunman appeared increasingly nervous. His actions lacked direction, and he seemed unsure of his next move. Approaching the window, he demanded a negotiator, holding Petrov at gunpoint. The request was unusual, as it came from the attacker rather than the authorities. After firing another round of warning shots, he returned to his position. Frustrated by the delay, the gunman took matters into his own hands. He called the 911 operator, demanding a negotiator. The operator, initially unaware that the caller was the attacker, asked for his identity. Only after the gunman's tone turned aggressive did the operator realize the gravity of the situation and assured him that a negotiator would be arranged. Meanwhile, in the store's warehouse, tensions ran high among the hiding visitors. Mingus, a staff member, decided to keep everyone inside, despite not knowing the full extent of the danger outside. A mother, accompanied by her daughter, insisted on leaving, convinced that the threat had been neutralized. The daughter, still holding her cell phone, provided an unexpected lifeline. Mingus used the device to contact the police, relaying critical information about the gunman's weapon and the presence of visitors hiding on the top floor. This intel was promptly forwarded to the DSI unit, which was monitoring the situation from above. From the air, the DSI unit monitored the unfolding situation at the Apple store. Two patrol police officers were trapped behind a road divider, unable to move freely due to the armed man's presence. The DSI provided advice, suggesting that the other officers drive one patrol car and move it slowly toward the divider to shield the officers in the pinch. The armed man, observing their movements, issued a warning not to proceed further. The officers signaled their intentions, explaining that they were merely attempting to cover their position with the vehicle. Convinced by their explanation, the armed man allowed them to continue. Inside the store, Ilyin Petrov was instructed to remain visible at the window, ensuring the armed man could maintain control over the situation. The gunman, still waiting for the phone call he had demanded, appeared increasingly agitated. Meanwhile, the police decided to hand over negotiation responsibilities to Kees van Zanten, the police chief. Upon arriving at the operator room and receiving a detailed update, Kees immediately assumed command of the operation. Outside, the long-awaited DSI squad finally arrived at the scene. Preparations were underway, treating the incident as a major terrorist case. The chief of DSI, a bald man named Abe, remained in the office, coordinating with Kees while directing his team to conduct tactical analysis from a building across the street. Abe planned to join them shortly. The negotiator requested by the armed man eventually arrived. Lin, a skilled negotiator chosen by Kees, was tasked with persuading the gunman to exit the store without the bomb vest attached to his body. Abe soon reached the location, but the team faced a significant obstacle. The building blueprint, crucial for planning their operation, was held by Apple's central office in the US. Without access to the plans, the DSI had to adapt their strategy on the fly. In the control room, Lin prepared to contact the armed man, supported by her team. At that moment, the gunman was attending to Petrov, who had requested his medication from his bag. The medicine, prescribed for a heart condition, was essential for Petrov's health. After addressing this, the gunman finally engaged in conversation with Lin. Lin attempted to ease the tension with small talk, aiming to divert the gunman's focus. However, he quickly shifted to his demands, which he could have conveyed directly to the police operator earlier. He insisted on receiving 200 million euros in Bitcoin, a request that surprised Lin due to its complexity. Despite her reservations, Lin agreed to the demand without further negotiation, recognizing the need to maintain the gunman's cooperation. As time passed, the gunman grew impatient, awaiting a response from the police. Petrov, attempting to defuse the situation, engaged the gunman in conversation. He suggested surrendering, pointing out the tight security outside. This angered the gunman, who declared his indifference to death. His frustration with the Dutch government, stemming from regulations he perceived as unfair to ordinary citizens, had driven him to this point. To express his defiance, he took a selfie with Petrov and sent it to a specific contact. The police successfully intercepted the photo file. The image, showing the bomb vest strapped to the gunman's chest, was forwarded to Kees, who shared it with Abe at the scene. Upon consulting with the bomb squad, it was revealed that the vest was a fake bomb. However, the possibility of a real bomb hidden in the gunman's bag could not be ruled out, prompting the team to proceed cautiously. Abe devised two plans for Winston and his team. The first involved freeing the visitors trapped on the top floor, while the second outlined a scenario for breaking into the store if the situation became critical. For the moment, they opted to wait for further developments. Direct maneuvers were initiated by the police. An officer named Mark contacted Mingus, a staff member hiding in the warehouse, requesting him to act as an informant. Mark instructed Mingus to speak quietly, ensuring the gunman would not overhear. Mingus provided valuable information, noting that the store's automatic system would shut off the lights and music at 9 p.m., its regular closing time. He explained that reactivating the system would require intervention from Apple's management in the US. Mark assured Mingus that he would attempt to contact the central office to address this. The information was relayed to Lin, who informed the gunman about the impending shutdown. She urged him not to react impulsively or assume the police were attempting to manipulate him. The gunman, visibly upset, grew emotional and pointed his gun at Petrov's head. Lin, maintaining her composure, managed to calm him down, averting a potential escalation. As Lin had warned earlier, the automatic system in the Apple Store initiated a routine shutdown, causing the lights to go out. Not long after, they were unexpectedly turned back on. Mark had successfully contacted Apple's central office in the US, convincing them to intervene and restore power to the store. The armed man, noticing the lights, grew suspicious and felt deceived. Despite his initial mistrust, Lin managed to pacify him and regain his trust through calm and steady negotiation. The man returned to his demands, reiterating his earlier request for 200 million in Bitcoin. Lynn, determined to keep the conversation going without escalating tensions, tried to steer the topic away from money. She shifted her focus to gathering more personal information, gently asking for the man's name. The armed man hesitated but eventually asked to be referred to as Double A, sharing only his initials at first. Once he disclosed this, he expanded his list of demands, adding the need for a super-fast sports car and a safe route out of the Netherlands to his previous request. Outside the building, Abe began coordinating the next phase of his plan. Recognizing the complexity of the operation, Mark reached out to Mingus in the store's warehouse for help. Mingus, relying on Apple Maps, charted a potential route for the DSI team to access the top floor by passing through the adjacent building. Abe instructed Lynn to continue engaging Double A and distract him while the operation progressed in secret. Lynn initiated another attempt to understand the man's motivations. She asked what had driven him to take such extreme actions. Her question struck a nerve, leading Double A to unload his frustrations with the Dutch government. He spoke passionately about his experiences as a Syrian refugee, detailing how he and others had faced imprisonment, torture, and inhumane treatment. His anger had reached a boiling point, and he saw this incident as an opportunity to seek revenge for the injustice he felt. Lynn's empathetic approach worked, and Double A, feeling heard, revealed his real name, Ammar Ajar. This revelation allowed the police to identify him as a Syrian immigrant and truck driver, confirming his background. While Lynn kept Ammar occupied, Winston's DSI team executed their plan. Moving through the neighboring building, the team climbed to the rooftop and carefully crossed over to the Apple store. From the rooftop, they descended to the second floor. Their movements were precise, avoiding detection as they reached the entrance. Despite the faint noises from above, Ammar's attention remained on Lynn's questions, enabling the DSI team to proceed undisturbed. Successfully, the team evacuated all visitors trapped on the top floor. During the evacuation, Petrov's coughing drew Ammar's attention momentarily, but Lynn quickly redirected his focus. With the top floor cleared, the police shifted their attention to the warehouse, where 4 individuals remained trapped. Conditions inside were worsening. A woman and her daughter were struggling, with the woman reporting dizziness and shortness of breath. Mingus attempted to alleviate the situation by clearing a blocked ventilation hole. When the woman's symptoms worsened, Mingus contacted Mark, who immediately requested a medic to stand by for emergency assistance. Despite the tense atmosphere, Mingus worked to calm the woman and her daughter, ensuring they remained silent as Ammar moved closer to the warehouse. Ammar remained willing to engage in conversation with Lynn, avoiding the issue of money. However, Abe, concerned about the woman's condition, considered breaking into the warehouse. The medic assessed the woman's symptoms and concluded that she was experiencing a panic attack, exacerbated by the lack of ventilation and the stressful circumstances. Since the situation was not life-threatening, Abe instructed his team to retreat, avoiding premature action. As the team adjusted their positions, an error occurred. A sniper stationed on the rooftop accidentally activated the laser sight on his rifle, casting a green dot onto Ammar's body. Ammar noticed the laser and immediately panicked. He grabbed Petrov, using him as a shield while issuing renewed threats. He accused Lynn of betraying him, undoing the trust she had built. Ammar, visibly agitated, refused further communication with Lynn and demanded a male negotiator instead. The urgent situation compelled Lynn to hand over control to a negotiator named Wilco, despite her belief that she had made significant progress with Ammar. She reluctantly stepped aside but continued to provide guidance to Wilco, ensuring continuity in the negotiation strategy. Wilco initiated contact with Ammar, who wasted no time reiterating his demand for 200 million in Bitcoin. He imposed a deadline, threatening to detonate his bomb if his demands were not met. Declaring his indifference to death, Ammar challenged the snipers to shoot him. As he began counting down, Lynn urged Wilco to shift the focus to Ammar's request for an escape car. The strategy worked, as Ammar paused to specify his preference, a limousine. Surprised by the unusual choice of a slow car for escape, Wilco agreed to the demand. Momentarily satisfied, Ammar set aside the detonator. At that moment, Petrov, still tied and held hostage, questioned Ammar's peculiar choice of an escape car. Ammar, with a hint of defiance, explained that he was fully aware he would eventually be arrested. However, when that moment came, He wanted to leave a lasting impression and look stylish. Petrov, unimpressed by the reasoning, bluntly called Ammar the most foolish criminal he had ever encountered. He criticized Ammar's poor planning, pointing out that not only had he chosen the wrong location for his operation, but he had also opted for a slow car as his getaway vehicle. Feeling insulted, Petrov expressed his frustration at being held captive by someone he deemed incompetent. In an unexpected turn, he demanded that Ammar order some mineral water for him. Ammar initially refused, pointing out that he had already brought cans of Red Bull. Petrov, however, declined the energy drink, citing his heart condition and the unsuitability of such beverages for someone with his medical needs. Ammar, despite his hardened exterior, seemed to feel a pang of sympathy and eventually agreed to Petrov's request. Ammar contacted the police to request mineral water. The authorities promptly responded, deploying a robot to deliver a plastic bag containing the water to the store's front door. Shortly after, Wilko called Ammar, assuring him that the water had been delivered and urging him to retrieve it. Wilko promised that no maneuvers would be made during the process. With Petrov as his shield, Ammar cautiously approached the door. As he reached the entrance, he paused, noticing the heavily armed DSI troops gathered outside, their weapons trained on him. The tension in the air was palpable. Inside the store, Mark instructed Mingus and the other visitors to lie down and remain still if he gave the order. Snipers positioned at various vantage points maintained their focus on Ammar, ready to act if necessary. Ammar, visibly nervous, hesitated, but Wilko continued to reassure him, urging him to remain calm. Ammar ordered Petrov to retrieve the water. Petrov, with his hands tied behind his back, struggled to comply. He attempted to drag the plastic bag with his knees, but found the task nearly impossible. Realizing the difficulty, Ammar reluctantly stepped forward to pick up the water himself. In doing so, he set down his rifle and the rope binding Petrov. Sensing an opportunity, Petrov acted swiftly. He bolted out of the store, catching Ammar off guard. Reflexively, Ammar chased after him, abandoning his position instead of retreating to safety inside the store. Seizing the moment, Winston accelerated his vehicle and struck Ammar, sending him sprawling onto the road. The DSI team immediately surrounded Ammar, maintaining a cautious distance. They remained vigilant, wary of the possibility that Ammar might still be conscious and capable of detonating a bomb. After a tense wait, it became evident that Ammar was unresponsive. Bomb disposal personnel moved in to remove the explosives from his body. Upon inspection, it was confirmed that the bombs were fake. Petrov, now safe, was escorted to safety under the protection of the officers. The remaining individuals in the store's warehouse were also successfully evacuated, bringing the ordeal to an end. Ammar Ajar succumbed to his injuries the following day in the hospital. Despite extensive investigations, his true motivations for orchestrating the terror remained a mystery, leaving unanswered questions about the events that had unfolded.